Title: They tore down my bridge. Didn't know I owned the only road to their neighborhood. They rolled in at 6 a.m. sharp on a chilly October Tuesday and demolished my family's bridge, the one my gramps built by hand back in '43 with a damn bulldozer just like that. I ran out in my boots and boxers shouting, and I saw them. Tiffany Hawthorne, the HOA president, and two of her little board puppets, standing there, filming it on their phones, laughing as the limestone blocks my grandfather pulled from Willow Creek tumbled into the muddy water. What they didn't realize, what they absolutely failed to check in their rush to bulldoze their way through life, was that I owned every single foot of the only other private road leading into their pristine, 1,000-acre gated community, the sanctuary at Whisper Ridge. And I was about to make their daily commute a very expensive, very painful lesson about property rights. See? Tiffany Hawthorne, the high-end realtor, the bleach blonde Bob, the monogrammed Range Rover, the professional bully. She thought she could steamroll a quiet, semi-retired civil engineer. She figured because I was a widower, living alone with my memories on 180 acres of semi-rural Pennsylvania, I wasn't the type to fight back. She was half right. I'm not the type to fight back. I'm the type to win. Imagine that feeling. Watching something built by a man you revered. A monument that took him 8 solid months of grueling work. Something you fished under as a boy and helped maintain as a man. Watching it turn to rubble in 40 minutes because a stranger with too much Botox and a self-appointed crown decided it was an eyesore. Gramps used to say, "Build something right, Art, and it outlasts you." That bridge was the last thing I had that truly echoed his voice. 18 months ago, the sanctuary was built on the old farm next door. 200 McMansions, 1.5 million and up, governed by an HOA that thought the county lines bent to their will. Our first interaction was simple. They needed a sewage easement across my land for construction. I negotiated a fair fee, and everything was legal and recorded. End of story, until Tiffany came knocking. No call, no warning, just standing on my porch with a certified letter and that tight little smile. It demanded I remove my bridge in 30 days. Citing an HOA environmental study claiming it was a flood hazard. I read the letter. Then I looked at the study, 4 pages from a landscaping company, not a single engineer's signature. "Ma'am," I said, my voice dangerously calm, "that bridge is entirely on my property. Your HOA has 0 legal authority here." That smile didn't break. It just tightened, like she was correcting a slow child. "Mr. Kincaid, we have documentation showing it's abandoned county infrastructure. We are asking you to comply with safety regulations." "Your documentation is garbage, Tiffany," I replied, throwing the letter onto the porch table. "We'll follow up through proper channels." And she drove off in her luxury SUV. I thought that was that. 1 week later, 6:04 a.m., the sound of a diesel engine roaring on my land jolted me awake. I ran out, the stone cracking, the timbers splashing into Willow Creek. I screamed at the operator, but he just waved me off. "Lady said it's a county demo, got a work order." Then I saw the 3 SUVs parked on my access road and the phones filming. The deputy arrived 40 minutes later. The bridge was gone. Just rubble and mud. He said it was a civil matter, I'd have to sue. Tiffany handed him a folder, cool as a cucumber. "Officer, we removed a hazard. We actually saved the county a future lawsuit." I stood there, dusty and shaking, realizing she didn't just want the bridge gone. She wanted to prove she could take whatever she wanted. She wanted to see me defeated. That day, sitting on my porch, smelling the crushed limestone, watching the creek run muddy with the debris of my past, I decided I wasn't going to spend years in court fighting a property destruction case. I was going to use my 30 years as a civil engineer to dismantle her entire neighborhood's infrastructure. I called my old buddy, Lyle Peterson, a local lawyer who handles land disputes and knows the county records like the back of his hand. We filed a clear-cut lawsuit for damages, but I didn't stop there. I needed insurance. "Lyle," I said, "trust me on this. Just keep them busy with motions. I'm going fishing in the county clerk's office." For 2 days, I buried myself in property records, utility right-of-ways, old survey maps from the 1940s that smelled like dust and dried coffee spills. Martha, the main clerk, stopped asking what I was looking for by day 2. Just hate sunlight now, Art? She asked, laughing. I grinned back. A little of both, Martha. A little of both. I'm a systems guy. I look for the flaw in the blueprint, the crack in the foundation, and I found it, a beautiful, legal, completely ironclad flaw in Tiffany's little kingdom. First, the corruption. A friend, Clara, who works in county planning, confirmed that Councilman Gene Vickers, who was fast-tracking all of Whisper Ridge's permits, had bought a vacation condo with Tiffany last year. Public record, sloppy. Second, the infrastructure. I found every document tied to the community, cross-referenced like I was building a missile defense system. That's when I saw the crack. Whisper Ridge's private sewage. Treatment plant had received only conditional approval from the Department of Environmental Protection, DUP, back in 2023. That conditional permit had a final inspection deadline that they had missed. They were operating on expired papers, which meant one complaint could shut the entire system down. Residents would be trucking out sewage at $400 a household per month. I also confirmed my main leverage. The deed to Pioneer Trail, the only paved road that served as their emergency access route, had never been formally deeded to the county. It was, and always had been, my private property, but Tiffany wasn't going to roll over. She went nuclear. I got 3 code enforcement citations delivered by certified mail, all dated the same day. Unlicensed junk vehicle for my '78 Chevy K10 sitting behind the barn. Unsecured burn pile for an ash heap from clearing brush. And illegal signage because my no trespassing signs were apparently 2 inches too tall, each carrying a $150 a day fine if not fixed in 10 days. This wasn't about law. It was targeted harassment. I called Lyle, told him to bury them in counter complaints, harassment, selective enforcement, abuse of authority. But I knew court takes time. Tiffany was trying to bleed me with 1,000 small cuts. Then the final piece fell into place. Sunday afternoon, a man in his early 50s named Greg Davies knocked on my door. He looked exhausted. "Mr. Kincaid," he said quietly, "I'm the HOA treasurer. I need to talk to you about Tiffany Hawthorne." Greg pulled out bank statements and invoices. Tiffany had been paying herself consulting fees, $4,000 a month for 18 months, completely unauthorized. She'd funneled nearly $200,000 of HOA money into her and her family's pockets. She'd even used $28,000 of HOA funds to pay for my bridge demolition, listing it as emergency infrastructure repair and falsifying the meeting minutes afterward. "Why are you showing me this, Greg?" I asked, feeling that cold, hard surge of pure anger. He met my eyes. "Because she fined my wife $500 for planting the wrong color roses. I'm just an accountant who hates fraud, Art. And she did what she did to your bridge with stolen money. That's unforgivable. I made copies of everything." Now I had the full picture, the expired septic permit, the corrupt councilman, the embezzlement, the armed vandalism. It wasn't just about my bridge anymore. It was about an empire of corruption built on the assumption that nobody was smart enough or angry enough to look closely. I called an investigative journalist, Andrea Walsh. "Andrea," I said, "it's Art Kincaid. I've got a story for you. Much bigger than the bridge." 5 days later, the headline ran, "County Councilman linked to developer in land dispute. Ethics questions raised." The media firestorm around Councilman Vickers lasted 3 days. Then the real bombshell dropped. Whisper Ridge, HOA president accused of self-dealing. Documents show suspicious payments to family. The damage was total and immediate. The district attorney's office suddenly decided to review the case. Residents were demanding her resignation, threatening criminal charges. I called Lyle. "It's time," I said. "Time to show them what I really own." The next morning, while Andrea's embezzlement article was setting the internet on fire, Lyle filed 2 documents with the county. First, formal notice that I was withdrawing public access to Pioneer Trail, effective in 30 days, using the 1952 deed as proof. Second, notification that the utility easement had expired and I was not renewing it. Within an hour, my phone started ringing. The county engineer's office, the fire chief, the township supervisors, all panicked. "Mr. Kincaid, if you close that road, our emergency response time triples." I gave them all the same calm answer. The road is private, always has been, and I'm within my legal rights to restrict access. If Meadowbrook wants continued use, they're welcome to negotiate an easement agreement at fair market rates. The panic inside Whisper Ridge was immediate and total. Greg was texting me updates from their emergency HOA meeting, shouting. Residents demanding Tiffany resign. Lawyers talking lawsuits. I sat on my porch that evening, watching the sky turn orange and purple like a bruise. Infrastructure is power. Roads, utilities, access. These aren't luxuries. They are necessities. And I owned them all. Tiffany's world was collapsing, and desperate people do desperate things. Sure enough, I woke up at 2:30 a.m. to the sound of chainsaws. Two men cutting down 60-year-old oaks along Pioneer Trail, dropping them across the road. I grabbed my phone, filmed their faces, filmed the rental truck linked to Tiffany's nephew, and called the sheriff. This wasn't a legal fight anymore. This was war. I didn't press charges yet. Lyle told me to save it. Art, you hold that video for mediation. When she's sitting across from you, in front of the TV cameras and the entire township, you calmly present this evidence. You don't even accuse her. You just explain that her nephew rented the truck used to commit a crime on your property. Let people draw their own conclusions. Chess, not checkers. The week before mediation, Tiffany was voted out as HOA president and suspended pending a full audit. She was done. Friday night, 7 p.m. The township municipal building was packed beyond capacity. 3 TV crews. The air smelled like burnt coffee and nervous sweat. I sat at one table with Lyle. Across from us, Tiffany and a single, desperate-looking lawyer. She looked diminished, defeated. I stood. I didn't need notes. I clicked Lyle's laptop, and the images appeared on the screen. My bridge, solid and 80 years old. Then the bulldozer mid-demolition. Tiffany and the board members filming. April 16th, 6:04 a.m., I stated, my voice level, not shaking. Meadowbrook HOA President Tiffany Hawthorne ordered this bridge demolished. Built by my grandfather in 1943. Destroyed without permission, without permits, without authority. I clicked through the evidence. The Facebook posts calling me unstable, the code enforcement harassment, the video of the chainsaw vandalism with the rental truck license plate clearly visible. I haven't pressed criminal charges, I said, facing the room directly, because I'm not interested in revenge. I want justice, and here's how we get it. I laid out the undeniable facts. I owned Pioneer Trail, their emergency access. Their utility easement was expired. I could close the road tomorrow and terminate their power and water rights. But I won't, I paused, letting the silence hang heavy, because that punishes innocent people. And they're not who I'm angry at. I pulled out the settlement proposal. Here's what makes this right. Whisper Ridge pays for the bridge to be rebuilt, historically accurate, proper materials. $78,000 for damages. A written public apology, published in the Township Gazette for 2 consecutive weeks. A new easement, $500 monthly for 20 years plus free emergency vehicle access because I'm not cruel. I looked directly at Tiffany, who wouldn't meet my eyes. You thought you could bulldoze a quiet engineer because I wouldn't fight back. You were half right. I didn't fight back. I fought smart. I read the deeds. I pulled the permits. I documented everything. My grandfather spent 8 months building that bridge with his hands. You destroyed it in 40 minutes while laughing. Meadowbrook accepts these terms, I concluded, or I close Pioneer Trail Monday and terminate utilities in 30 days. The room erupted. The interim HOA president, a nervous accountant, stood up. Mr. Kincaid, the interim board has reviewed your terms. We accept all of them. We will make it right, Tiffany's lawyer whispered to her, urging her to say something. She finally stood defeated, face blank. For a moment, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she said quietly, I acted in what I believed were the community's best interests. That was it. No apology, just deflection. I watched her walk toward the exit. People moved aside like she was contagious. At the door, she turned and looked at me one last time. I didn't gloat, I didn't flinch, I just held her gaze until she left the building. Outside, in the parking lot, Lyle clapped my shoulder. Art, in 30 years, I've never seen someone dismantle an opponent that thoroughly without raising their voice. I looked up at the night sky. She didn't dismantle her, Lyle. She dismantled herself. I just showed everyone the receipts. The bridge reconstruction started in June. I hired a local stonemason who understood the legacy. We used the stones Gramps used, built to modern code but historically accurate. On a Saturday in July, I invited the township to a stone-setting volunteer event. 67 people showed up, including families from Whisper Ridge who wanted to be part of fixing what their old board had broken. We built it back better. I used the settlement money to establish the Kincaid Trades Scholarship, an annual $5,000 award for local students pursuing civil engineering and skilled trades, funding the next generation of people who know how to build things right. 6 months later, I'm sitting on my porch with coffee, watching the sunrise paint the creek orange. My phone buzzes. Text from Greg, the new HOA president. Spring potluck is Saturday. You're invited as guest of honor. I smiled and typed back, I'll bring the potato salad. I walked down to the bridge, run my hand over the new stones. A pickup crosses, the driver waves. I wave back. This is what Gramps meant about building things that last, not just the stone and timber, but the connections, the trust, the knowledge that when someone tears something down, a community can choose to build it back better. Now here's my question for you. Have you ever dealt with an out-of-control HOA, a corrupt board, or a neighbor who thought they were untouchable because they had money or connections? Did you fight back? Drop your revenge strategy, the smart, legal kind, in the comments below. I want to hear how you won. If you loved watching justice happen, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because we've got more stories of underdogs beating the system. Let's make sure every bully out there knows you can't win when you're wrong and someone's paying attention. See you next time.